All right, well, this could be an interesting video. First off, happy Thanksgiving to all of those who celebrate here in the United States. Fun stuff here, but I figured this could be kind of a fun video to talk about. I'm very interested in this stuff. It does require a little bit of an explanation. I'm still not sure exactly how I'm going to title this video and put the thumbnail together, but I'll figure that out at a certain point. The way this video is going to work is there's certain analytical things I've noticed, analytical trends I've noticed throughout the years of just covering football. And so let's just go one by one and talk about those trends and what they mean. And you'll get it as we go. So one of the first trends to talk about is that over the past 12 years, it's a weird number because I ran a study a couple years ago, but it's continued these past couple years. So over the past 12 years, a team that has finished in the bottom 15 in terms of receiving play among teams, so PFF grades, receiving play, bottom 15, have never made the Super Bowl. That hasn't happened since I've done the numbers. So, figured it'd be interesting. Let's look at the teams at this point in the season that are in the bottom 15 in receiving play and what that means. So these are not every team in the bottom 15, obviously. You can count that, but the notable ones. The teams that are trying to make the playoffs right here, and that's kind of how I evaluate it. Are you looking to be a playoff team, and are you in the bottom 15 in receiving play? So some aren't like that crazy. It's like, Buccaneers, Raiders, Colts. I don't know if any of those teams really have Super Bowl aspirations anyway, but it is kind of just interesting for teams that maybe, they have playoff aspirations, and maybe you're thinking, well, hey, get into the playoffs, we can get hot. Well, you'll have to step it up in the receiving game to do it, which you can do, right? Because I'm sure there have been teams who were in the bottom 15 at this point in the season and then stepped it up and were able to be in the top 17 and get to a Super Bowl that way. Is worth mentioning as well. This is in order of best receiving play to worst receiving play. So the higher you are on the list, the better receiving play you have, despite still being in the bottom 15. Like, I think Tampa Bay's is 15th worst. So there you go. The Jaguars are interesting. Jaguars are very interesting to me as they're a team that, definitely has Super Bowl aspirations. I think they're tied. In fact, I know they're tied for the best record in the AFC right now. So tied for the best record in the AFC, despite the fact that they are, currently in the bottom 15 and relatively low down on this list as well. So you have to think that they're going to have someone step it up. In fairness, they did look better last week, so maybe they're okay there. Denver, again, I don't know if they have, kind of similar to the Bucs, Raiders, and Colts, I don't know if they really have Super Bowl aspirations, but I threw them there. And then the Steelers and Browns, who I've kind of joked about for a bit, are in many ways the same team. Steelers and Browns are, two teams that, again, receiving play hasn't quite been there. They've been winning games with defense, which historically gets you to the playoffs, but doesn't get you to a Super Bowl. You can see that here. But still, again, is there time to turn it around? Sure, there's time to turn it around. But if you wonder, why am I lower on the Browns? Why am I lower on the Steelers? Well, this is a part of it. Another part of it is, so there has been one team who has had a quarterback finish in the bottom 15 go on to make the Super Bowl and actually win it. That was the 2015 Denver Broncos. But that feels like an exception. It still only happened once. It's very rare for it to happen. So I figured let's look at those as well. So these are notable teams trying to make the playoffs with quarterbacks who have been in the bottom 15. Couple NFC South teams, the Buccaneers and the Saints. So Buccaneers ended up being at the top of both of these lists. So I guess in some ways you can, just play a little bit better. You can get into, above the threshold and be okay. I still don't know exactly how much hope there is for Super Bowl there. Saints, maybe there was a little bit more hope for Super Bowl, but again, Derek Carr, I think they figured getting Derek Carr would put them off of this list. Unfortunately, he still has them. He's still there. Let's skip over to Steelers for a second. We'll get to them when we get to the Browns. Raiders and Falcons, again, two teams trying to make the playoffs, but I think they know are not really Super Bowl teams. Steelers and Browns, once again, both teams that are on this list, and the Browns are actually at the bottom of both of these two lists. And they're actually 32nd in terms of quarterback play this season. Now, maybe DTR comes through and starts playing better. There's the hope there. but it does feel like if the Browns are going to make a deep run, they're going to have to at least get better receiving play and better quarterback play, probably both. Like, they're probably going to have to get both. So, and for Pittsburgh, again, kind of the same thing. When you're bad in those two areas, hard to see you going on a deep run. So, yeah, that's that. Now we have another, I think, interesting topic of discussion, which is historically, there's three things you want to be really good at. You look at Super Bowl winning teams. Usually you have to be great at two of these things. You can get away with being great at one of them, but you need to be at least one of them. So these are the three things, which is if you're top 7 in PFF grade in receiving, quarterback, or coverage. Basically, the way it works is that there hasn't been a team, again, since I've done this study in the past 12 years, to win a Super Bowl without any of these. That hasn't happened. I don't believe there's even been one to make the Super Bowl without any of these. You need to be at least top 7 in one of these three categories. Usually you need 2. Almost always you need 2 to make the Super Bowl. It's rare for it to only be one example. And if you have all 3, you almost always either win the Super Bowl or lose to a team that also has all 3. Like, a couple of examples. I believe one year the Panthers and the Cardinals both had all 3 of these, but the Panthers won, beat the Cardinals, went to the Super Bowl, where they lost to, again, the Denver Broncos, who didn't have great quarterback play. But again, over the course of history, it really helps to have as many of these categories as possible. So let's look at the teams that currently have one of these, that have 2 of these, and that have 3 of these. First, we have only a handful of teams that have, one of these currently, and it's a bit interesting so you have the Seahawks, Lions, Vikings, Jets, and Saints. Those are all of them. The Vikings have a bit of an asterisk, which is they actually technically, as of right now, have 2. They have quarterback play as well. It's quarterback play, and I believe it's coverage are the 2 that they have. I am not giving them credit for quarterback play, though, because it was because of Kirk Cousins, who, is now injured. Dobbs has not been top 7 in terms of quarterback play. So that's why I'm assuming at the end of the year, they will not be in the top 7. And I bumped up number 8, who we'll get to in a second, one spot up. So yeah, Seahawks, theirs is currently, it's receiving, so that's where they're at. And actually, there's a typo. Lions should be in the next tier. They have 2. They have quarterback play and receiving. So I just realized that right now. So my screw up there. But the Lions are 2, so you feel pretty good about that. That makes you feel like you're kind of a contender. The Jets have coverage, and the Saints both, they just have coverage. I don't know if they're real contenders here. So these are kind of the teams, though, Vikings, Lions, Seahawks. We'll throw the Jets and Saints in there, sure, but probably not. I don't really have the Jets. They were in the bottom 15 in some of those other categories. I didn't even bring it up because I just don't think that they're a real contender. So really, if we take out the Saints as well, because they're in the bottom 15 in terms of quarterback play, feels like what the analytics say here is that Seahawks, Seahawks and Vikings, 2 teams that have an outside shot at a Super Bowl, but it seems unlikely. That's kind of how I would view that. The next tier, which again, add the Lions here. Lions, you have the Dolphins, the Texans, the Ravens, the 49ers, the Jaguars, and the Bills. The Bills, despite a lot of struggles, are still currently here right now. So that's interesting. And they're actually just outside the top 7 in terms of receiving core. So analytics always love the Bills. It just is what it is. But, it's interesting, right? Because Jacksonville, for example, a team that doesn't have the receiving core to pass that threshold, but is great in quarterback play and in coverage. So if they can just get good enough receiving core down the stretch, that could be enough to turn them from a team that I'm not really viewing as a contender to maybe even a favorite. It's interesting there. You also have the 49ers, who don't have the quarterback play to be in the top 7, but they do have everything else, and the quarterback play is still good enough to make them a real contender. The Baltimore Ravens don't have the wide receiver play, but the wide receiver play is still good enough to make them a contender, all of that good stuff. The Houston Texans, they're a team where I put the asterisk. C.J. Stroud, the passing game for the Texans has been 8th best in terms of throwing the football. So I bumped them up a spot because I bumped the Vikings out of it. It wouldn't be fair to bump one team out and not put another team back up there. So Texans, they're there. It's receiving play and quarterback play. And their coverage hasn't been bad either. So they're a real contender. Can't count them out. And then Miami, I think we kind of all know which two they are. They're currently second best in receiving and best in quarterback play, according to PFF, which, again, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but this translates well. It really does. So, okay, those are the real contenders. But as I said, if you're top 7 in all 3, you should be like a favorite, right? That's how we should view you. Is there a team that's top 7 in all 3? There is, and this is going to make some people mad. How about them Cowboys? The Dallas Cowboys, the only team to be in top 7 in all 3. They are 4th in receiving currently. They are 4th in quarterback play currently, and they are 6th in coverage. So who knows how long it'll last, but Prescott's having kind of a career year right now. And because of that, a guy who's usually not really that close to top 7 is in the top 7. The receiving core has really worked. Again, feels like on paper, maybe it's not the most dominant, but guys have stepped up, especially these past few weeks, and CeeDee Lamb's been amazing for them. And the coverage is the coverage. Deron Bland's getting a pick 6 every game, and you still have Stephon Gilmore doing his thing. So really interesting stuff with Dallas. Does this mean I think they're going to win the Super Bowl? No, but it definitely means that I think that they have a higher likelihood than I thought before looking at this. So you definitely have to, take that with, I think that's interesting to me. So maybe I'll do this again before the playoffs start, but kind of an interesting little test and seeing how how these sort of simple things view each team. Of course, if you're someone who's a fan of a specific team like the Steelers or whatever, you don't have to sit here and say, oh, well, this is definitively true. I guess my team stinks. Obviously, nothing is perfectly the same and things don't exist in a vacuum. There could be excuses for why a team might actually be better or worse than why they're on this list, and where they're at on any of these charts, of course. That goes without saying. But yeah, it's still interesting to look at. That's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.